Thanks for joining. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll just give it a minute or so while people are connecting to the audio and joining via the link. In the meantime, if you'd like to let us know where you're tuning in from, or what kind of roles you might be interested in applying for, we'd be really interested to hear. So please feel free to let us know in the chat if you are now joining. Again, we'll kick off in a minute or two. We're just waiting for some more people to connect to the audio and to join. And then once we've got everyone, we will kick off. Yeah, again, in the meantime, if you'd like to let us know where you're tuning in from or what kind of roles you might be interested in, yeah, we'd love to know in the chat. Feel free to use the chat. We'll give it another minute just to wait for some more people to come through. The session is being recorded, but if you'd like to take any notes, then feel free to. If you want to take a photo or screenshot of the screen, that's fine as well. Just give it a moment or two. Oh, somebody said the chat seems disabled. Thank you for letting me know. I will see if our tech people in the background can do some magic on the chat to see if that will work for us. Hey, that looks good. Perfect. Thank you so much. Awesome. Good to see that the chat's working. Thank you for letting us know. We've got some people from Blackpool. Belfast. Hello, hello. Great. Looks like we've got quite a few people tuning in now. Newcastle, London, Staffordshire, Glasgow. Awesome. The chat is now moving so fast that I can barely read. Super. Okay, great. Looks like we've got lots of people. And it's 2 minutes past, so we might as well kick off. And if anyone else joins us, then they will only be moments behind. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for coming to your CrewHQ and Creative Access CV session, specifically thinking about how you might be creating applications for below the line careers in film and TV production. This session is a discussion between myself, I'm from Creative Access, and also Jackie, who is from CrewHQ. So there'll be some speaking from me and conversation with Jackie about the best ways to make these applications, specifically again for roles below the line in career in film and TV. So we'll go with some introductions. Firstly, my name is Megan. Again, I'm from Creative Access and I'm the recruitment manager. And what that means is that I am assessing applications on a daily basis across different industries that we work with. So we not only work across film and TV, but lots of other industries at Creative Access. And my role is to hand read these applications, review CVs, and then meet with talent in the creative industries. And I'll hand over to Jackie and she can introduce herself and her role and what she does at CrewHQ.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for turning up. Yes, so I am the program manager at CrewHQ and I lead on the CrewHQ trainee program. So that's our new entrant program, which is, I'll tell you a bit more about it later, but it's really about kind of creating that visible, open pathway into a below the line career in film and TV.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jackie. Great. So outline of today's session. Firstly, we'll talk a little bit about Creative Access and CrewHQ and what we do individually. We'll then talk about tailoring your CV and your cover letter for the film and TV industry. We'll talk a little bit about developing an effective portfolio. We will then have top tips for interview preparation, and then there's time for feedback and questions at the end as well. So the majority of the session will be us in conversation, and then there will also be time at the end for a Q&A too. So if you've got any questions, save them up, put them in the Q&A, and we will get to the Q&A at the end. So firstly, a little bit about Creative Access. My slide seems to be missing, but I'll do it without my slide. We are an organisation that support people from underrepresented groups to get into the creative industries. And our mission is to support people to kind of break into these industries at entry level, and then to thrive in their careers. So at Creative Access, we have lots of different opportunities available. We have internships, jobs, things like open days where you can come and learn more about the specific industry you're interested in. We have mentoring opportunities. We have things like employability skill sessions and masterclasses. So if you haven't had a full look at our website and you're not familiar with what we do, I definitely recommend checking out our website and just having a look at the full extent of the work that we do. And I will hand over to Jackie and she will talk about CrewHQ.
So CrewHQ, it's a bespoke training centre at Warner Brothers Studios, Leavesden. It's pretty new. It's built by filmmakers for filmmakers. We are absolutely all about crew. Everything we do is informed by crew. And we work with crew at all levels of their career, all stages of their career, providing sort of off-the-job training exactly as crew would like it to be. And the CrewHQ trainee program is, as I said earlier, is the entrant level program. It's actually open for applications now. So if you click on that QR code on your screen, you can have a look at the information on that webpage and have a look at the application form as well. It's open until the 6th of October, and we're looking for people interested in getting into any sort of department really below the line. And that's below the line, by the way, is anything that's not director, producer, writer. So all the other careers that the crew that actually make the film or the TV show. So people can apply and express an interest in whether it's camera or costume or art department or production. The only ones we're not accepting applications for at the moment is the accounts department. No experience is necessary. We're really just interested in skills, aptitude, and passion for the industry. And we will really welcome applications from across the country, all the regions. And yeah, just have a look at the page, and then we can sort of answer questions as we progress through the through today's session. So thanks, Megan.
Awesome. And if you scan the QR code, you can also check out the program there as well. Okay, so now we will first kick off by thinking about ways to prepare for how do you go about kind of getting your application ready to apply for the roles in film and TV. So there's obviously the section where you're kind of putting together your CV and you're thinking about what content goes on there. But even before you start putting together a CV, what kind of things can you be doing to really kind of build your experience, grow the kind of things that you can put on your CV and get ready to apply for these roles? So preparing for a role in the film and TV industry. So in your CV, you really want to be coming across as someone that is well-rounded. You're going out in your own time. You're seeking opportunities to grow your skill set. You're exploring things that you're interested in. And you're kind of maybe developing those skills specifically for the industry or the role that you're interested in. These below suggestions may depend on the department that you're applying for. So again, if you're applying for a costume department role compared to a camera or grip assistant role, that might be a little bit different. But if you are preparing to apply, you might want to take this advice. So firstly, you might want to choose a focus. Below the line roles are diverse. You might want to explore areas of interest like camera, sound, lighting, editing, art department. Make sure you do your research into what kind of role you might be interested in. Secondly, training and workshops. So find specialist workshops or training courses that are relevant to your chosen department. There are lots available online. Just have a look around, see what you can get involved in, and it really does kind of prepare you for these roles. Freelance work, so you might want to start building your experience by working on low budget projects to gain technical expertise. That can be with your friends, it could be at university, community groups, your spare time. Then networking is a really important part of the film and TV industry, as I'm sure everyone knows. Yeah, it's a huge part of the industry. And if you are attending film festivals, if you're attending workshops, if you're going to industry events and you're building these relationships, not only does it give you something to put on your CV, but it also gives you that opportunity to meet new people, to find out about more roles available and things that are going on in the industry. And networking can often lead to entry-level opportunities, so we always recommend it. And then lastly, You might want to build a portfolio. So if it's relevant to your department, again, you might be applying for roles that are in costume or hair or anything like that, where you want to show visually your work. You might want to create a portfolio that demonstrates your abilities to handle this equipment, to use this software, or your design or your artistic skills that are relevant to your role. So again, depends on the role that you're applying for. Is there anything you'd like to add to this point, Jackie?
I think I'd just like to add that sort of the film and TV industry is much more open than it used to be. There are many more channels opening up to which help provide information, insight, and access to work opportunities in the industry. And even in the regions now, there are bodies like in Northern Ireland, you've got Northern Ireland Screen, we've got Screen Alliance Wales, there's Screen Scotland, there's the Screen Alliance North, which covers sort of Yorkshire, Manchester, all across that kind of area. So there are lots of regional bodies now that you can get in touch with, who can support with training and access. And there are, big events like the Future Film Festival, BFI Future Film Festival in February. And it's in London, but it's a great event to sort of, again, make connections, meet people. And that's, this industry is about that. But whereas it used to be you had to know the people in advance, you don't have to anymore. There are ways in which you can get to know people, especially with the advent of social media and things like that. So it really is a lot more open. And if you're proactive, you will make connections and you will make progress. And I guess I would just like to say, before you have experience, it's all about your skills, your transferable experiences, work ethic, and your passion for working in this industry. That's what people want to see. So yeah, all those things that Megan has gone through will help do that.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so starting to put together your CV, getting the most out of your CV, making it work for you. What should you include? What should you not include? What does a CV even look like in this industry? I know that when you're kind of entry level and applying to roles, it can be really hard to know what people even want to see or what should be included on there. So hopefully by giving you some tips, we can cover what goes into a CV. So the basics, things that sound really, really simple, but of course sometimes get forgotten. Firstly, contact details. So things in this industry move really quickly. If I need to get hold of someone, I need their name, I need their phone number, I need their email address pretty quickly. And you might also want to include if you have a driving license. That's also useful for roles in film and TV. Secondly, a short profile. So you don't necessarily need an entire paragraph or kind of big section with lots and lots of words outlining yourself. Just a short profile is a really nice introduction to you, the kind of role that you're applying for, your career aspirations, what you're interested in, as example. Skills. A skills section can be really useful if you use it in the good kind of useful way. So we want to see your hard and technical skills, any kind of training courses that you've undertaken, anything that relates specifically to the role that you're applying to. You can include soft skills on there. It's really nice if we can see those technical skills. If you've worked with specific camera equipment or editing software, anything really technical that might relate to the role is really useful to have on there. And then also work experience and tailoring your CV to the role. So what kind of roles or work experience have you undertaken so far? What responsibilities have you had that are specifically relevant to the role that you're applying for? You could have lots of different copies of your CV. You might have one that's kind of focused towards the camera department. You might have one that's focused towards makeup department, for example. And you want to be making sure that your CV, the second that the recruiter sees it, they know that you've got those relevant or transferable skills. So that's really important on your CV as well. Anything to add there, Jackie, that you'd like to add?
I think just said the point about the recruiter. The recruiter is quite often crew, if it will be crew.
Yeah.
So it will be people who are already in the department that you'd be applying for. So yeah, just be aware that it's you're talking to crew when you're putting your CV and your application together.
And then also to include your education. Sometimes I do see people with really, really, really lengthy education sections outlining kind of every single thing that they've ever studied ever. The most important thing that we want to see is anything that relates to the role or the industry that you're applying for. So you might want to include your most recent qualifications, any key modules that you've studied that relate to the industry or the role specifically. That can be really nice to outline as well. Any achievements? Have you been part of a production team? Have you received an award? Is there anything that you're kind of achieving or doing that you'd like to add to your CV? Your other experience is just as valuable as any paid experience. I think a lot of people forget to include it just because it's not paid experience. We really do like to see voluntary work, personal projects, any part-time jobs that you've done, things that you're doing in your own time. Perhaps you're making your own films or your own, I don't know, art practice, or you're experimenting with cameras or lighting. We would love to see that in your applications. And then lastly, any relevant interests. So anything that you might be doing in your spare time that helps to illustrate your passions that are relevant to this role. Again, what kind of things are you learning about? What are you doing in your spare time to further your skills on this industry or your knowledge? What kind of things are you undertaking as interests that are going to help build your knowledge of these roles in that industry? Jackie, would you like to add anything there? Feel free to just chime in at any point.
Just quickly to say that I suppose some of this detail, some of the real detail would be more in your applications or your interviews. Your CV is almost like your sort of shop window, and you know people don't want to read very in-depth, detailed CVs. It's really kind of, they want to get the information they need quite quickly, and then all this stuff is you know, some of this detail here, some of your experiences in your project work, list the projects perhaps and say what kind of projects they are, but all the kind of detail would be covered in applications and interviews.
Yeah, really, really good point as well. On occasions, we do see people that have kind of either paragraphs or just loads and loads of sentences of text. The recruiter's only got so much time and so much availability to read. So do keep things to bullet points as well. That's also really useful.
Yeah.
Okay, so what should a CV in film and TV look like? You might never have seen someone else's CV before. You might not know what the layout should look like. Should it be a Word document? Should it be a PDF? What kind of layout, or visually, how should it look? We've got an example on the screen, and then I will hand over to Jackie and she can walk you through her experience and what should, you know, a CV look like.
Okay, so one side of A4 is ideal. So this is how kind of for production, and it doesn't apply for all industries. We're just talking now about kind of a CV that works in the production industry, and it's very good to keep it to one side of A4. As I say, it's really a sort of shop window. Think about the role you're applying for, and think about what that person might be looking for. They will be looking to know, first of all, what you want. So that sentence at the top about what do you, especially as a trainee, which department do you want to work in, what role you're looking for, and actually sometimes what's your availability as well. So that, you know, because things move very quickly in production, it may be that you're required to start very quickly. So it's quite good to sometimes to detail your availability. As we've already stated at the top there, you can see full clean driving license if you have it. Bases where you're based. It could be that you're based in London, but it could be based in Manchester or Scotland or wherever. It's just good to put an indication there. You can sometimes put based in London, but have places you can stay around the country. I don't know. If you want to sort of look like you can stay. You can come from more places. You can put London, Manchester, Bristol. If you have places you can stay in those places, that works. When you haven't got much experience yet, it's quite difficult to explain. You know, when you've got a few productions under your belt, it's great to be able to list them out like that, but obviously you may not have that yet. You may have student productions that you've worked on. You can list those, but be very clear that they are student productions and you're not pretending there's something else. It's always really good just to be very clear. And also, if you are working on a student production and you may be the director or the cinematographer, but now you're looking for perhaps a camera trainee route, again, it's just very clear. It's very good to say that that's a student production that you were the director for, not obviously anything bigger than that. It's just very good to position your CV as an entry-level CV when you're going for a trainee role. It's also if you scroll down to the training section, even if you don't have any experience yet, you can do lots of sort of online industry specific training. So if you go to the Screen Skills website, for example, there's lots of free online training there, which you can do, which just shows a real kind of commitment and interest in learning how to work in the industry. So that you can see things like the Screen Skills Work Well series, online safety passport courses, various other stuff. But if you, for an entry level point of view, Screen Skills is absolutely brilliant for that. And you'll be able to get some relevant experience, skills and training under your belt and be able to put that on your CV. Any other experience, as Megan's already alluded to, is really, really good to see, particularly when you're right at the beginning. People can glean a lot from a part-time job. So if you say you worked in McDonald's or in a shop or in a bar, we will know from that you've probably done quite long hours. You're good with people, you've got communication skills, you're good at service, etc. And hard work, actually. If you work in someone like McDonald's or a bar or a shop, they are usually long hours and it's usually pretty hard work. You're on your feet all day and all that sort of thing. So even just listing those part-time jobs will tell us an awful lot about your kind of work ethic and ability to hold down a job and all that sort of thing. You might want to put in some special projects that you think highlight some good skills, but again, it needs to be something quite sort of top line at this stage, and then that can be dug into more in kind of interview. And you can see the education is pretty short, and this one it's only the degree. For our program, we don't look for degrees; it's not necessary. So you might have a really good level 3 in creative media production, which is great. So yeah, but you can see how the education is quite a small bit. Yeah, there you go. One side of A4 and you can communicate an awful lot with just a few details.
Really useful. Thank you so much. So we will do some now really kind of quick fire Q&A, popular CV questions. We've taken some questions that people have pre-submitted and kind of generalized and found the most common questions that we've received. So the first question that we've received are, what are some common application mistakes? Jackie, what kind of application mistakes are you seeing?
Yeah, I think one of them, as I sort of kind of hinted at in the previous slide, is about that sort of, if you've done a lot of student films, or a lot of small films, and you've been directors or cinematographers or whatever, and or screenwriters and things like that. If you're putting that on your CV, you just need to be really, really clear that you are doing it at a student level, not trying to portray it as being more experienced than you are, because eventually it will get unpicked. So be very sort of genuine about what you're trying to communicate, because people, you're at the beginning of your career, people don't expect you to have loads and loads of experience, but they expect you to have enthusiasm and just be genuine. And also be really, really careful about AI. It's amazing how you can kind of pick it out. Certain phrases are not commonly used, and then yet suddenly they're coming through in quite a few applications that we see. So we are kind of very wary of looking at AI. So make sure it's coming from you, it's coming from a genuine place, an authentic place. And I guess actually that leads on to the next one. What makes an application stand out? Actually, you can kind of feel that when someone's just genuine enthusiasm is coming through, genuine passion. That really goes a long way, actually. And one that really responds to the criteria well as well. You've kind of had a look. For example, on the Screen Skills website, there is a fantastic resource of job profiles. You can key in almost any job below the line role, and it will give you a list of the skills that job needs and the aptitudes and that sort of thing. So that's what the people are looking for, is those skills and those aptitudes. So you can have a think about that and what can you put in your application that represents that you have those skills and you have those aptitudes. So again, Screen Skills website and job profiles is a really good one to look at.
Lovely, thank you. Yeah, I've definitely seen the same with AI, where you can see that people just have, not inputted the title of the job or the employer's name, and it just says insert employer here. So definitely double check your CVs and applications when you're using AI. Okay, so what if I don't have any work experience at all? What do I do? What do I put on my CV if I don't have any paid work experience? So if this is you and you don't have any work experience, it's a good idea to evidence your transferable skills. You might want to include things, again, like a brief bio about yourself, your interests, and your ambitions. Introduce the recruiter to you and what you're hoping to do. Your education, again, just any relevant courses as part of your education. Your voluntary, your extracurricular activities, any part-time work you've done. As Jackie said, all of this really plays a part in showing that you are a team player, that you turn up to work, that you're good with working long hours, all of these amazing things. Any workshops or training that you've undertaken, any masterclasses or relevant events that you've attended. So are you putting yourself out there and attending all of these events online? You could put things like that on your CV as well. Any personal projects, any leadership roles, any group work related to the industry, again, any certificates or any courses that you have, any achievements or any awards, and then also any hobbies, any interests, again, relevant to the role. Yeah, it sounds like Screen Skills is a really useful tool there for exploring these roles more and being able to have a look at that training and guidance as well. Okay, bespoke application processes and considering the different ways that application processes might look like. Again, application processes might be different depending on the company, the organization, the role that you're applying for. So types of recruitment processes in film and TV or different application processes. So some roles might ask you for a cover letter or a motivation letter. This usually serves as an introduction to yourself, to the prospective employer, and usually for roles that are recruited or advertised on Creative Access, we will ask for a cover letter. So just be prepared that if it asks for one, that we do expect it, and then to not include one is a real missed opportunity. Again, if the application process says, please include a cover letter, it's really important that you do. Otherwise, it's just showing that you haven't read that process properly, or you haven't taken the time. If a job advertisement doesn't ask for a cover letter explicitly and you're just maybe asked to email over your CV to an email address, you still want to make sure that you are including a brief cover letter or a brief kind of summary intro to yourself and why you've applied for the role. So instead of just kind of pinging your CV off to the email address, in the body of the email, you might just want to write a little bit about why you've applied and why you're interested, just to be really polite. And the person receiving that will appreciate it. Roles at CrewHQ may ask you for kind of a different process. So they might ask application questions to determine your motivation for applying. Some roles at Creative Access might do that too, but I know that this role as well, CrewHQ has application process questions. Jackie, is that something that's quite common for roles on CrewHQ to ask those application questions?
Yeah, for us, we have an online application process. So we have a form which you'll see on our website. You can see, if you go through all the facts and the notes beforehand, you can see the questions that we'll be asking. And it's a really good idea to just prepare your answer before you actually start to fill in the application form, because once you get into the application form, you can't save and come back to it later. So it's really good to go and check those questions out, prepare. We actually, we ask for either, you can submit as text answers or audio files. The process is completely blind. All the applications are read by Crew, and then we shortlist from there. And then we have an interview after that. And it's at the interview stage, we will then get into touch with people who have been invited to interview and ask for CVs. So it's at the interview stage that we want to see your CV, not at the application stage. But the questions, I mean, I can just quickly read through them, or you can see them on the website. What do you want to do, Megan? I've got time to do that now, or?
Yeah, you've got time if you want to.
Okay, we just, you'll see that what we're trying to do, we're trying to really just find out a bit more about you, about as Megan says, your motivations and your skills and your aptitudes and your interests, really. So we are looking for people with little or to no experience working in high-end TV and film production. So we're interested in hearing what transferable skills you may have from outside of the industry that may be applicable for your chosen role. To understand the skills we're looking for, please check the Screen Skills job profiles, which I've already mentioned. There's a word limit and an audio duration, both of which you won't be able to exceed. So if you have to stick to those. Second question, tell us about the moment you knew you wanted to work behind the scenes in the film industry, or tell us a story of when you first fell in love with film and why. Where do you hope to be in 5 years' time? What are your ambitions? What are your aspirations? And if you didn't get this opportunity, what would be your next steps? And lastly, what would you say are your core traits and how would they benefit the industry? So those are the questions. As I say, they're already on the application pages as well, so you can see them there. But that really helps you to prepare. And there's lots of top tips. There's lots of facts as well. So there's loads of information there to help support your application.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Closing date. I don't think I've said that. Closing date is Sunday, the 6th of October. So yeah, about 3 weeks, just under.
Super. And then, so for cover letters, again, if you're applying for a role via Creative Access, or if you've been asked to email over your CV to an email address, and you want to put something in the body of that email, have a think about the sandwich rule when you're writing your cover letter. So the top slice is why you want to work for the company. What are you applying for and why? Why are you curious? What do you want to learn? What do you want to take away from this opportunity? What is it that you really want to get stuck in and involved with? Secondly, the filling, so your experience, your skills and room for development, any relevant work experience and how those skills and responsibilities will allow you to carry out this new role successfully. Again, what kind of transferable things can you bring to this role? And even if you haven't had experience in this sector beforehand, how have the responsibilities that you've had so far going to translate into this role? And then the bottom slice, a summary of why you'd like to be considered for the role. You might also want to include any alignment with the company's values and research into their work. And yeah, just kind of show the employer that you've actually done the research, you've taken the time to find out more about them, their company, and you've really kind of taken the time to tailor your cover letter specifically to them. Again, this is appropriate if you're applying for a Creative Access role where there's an emphasis on cover letters, or if you're politely emailing your CV over. Okay, portfolios and creative applications. This will vary on who this is relevant to, depending again on the role that you're applying for. So if it is relevant to you, then take it. Otherwise, it might not be so relevant depending on the role that you're looking for. But what needs to go into a creative portfolio and what does a portfolio include? So if you're making a portfolio online, you might want to start with a cover page, and this would include, again, your name, your location, any kind of personalized introduction to yourself. You then want to include a selection of projects. So between about 5 and 10, it doesn't need to be every single thing that you've ever done, ever. It can just be a really nice select amount of work that you're proud of and that you feel confident talking about if you were to get to the interview stage. And if we asked you about your portfolio, yeah, what would you feel confident talking about? So a select amount of work, any kind of self-initiated projects. Again, it doesn't have to be paid experience. It could be something that you're doing in your own time for fun. And that could also be work in progress and experiments too. And then lastly, again, the importance of having your contact info. Sounds really simple, but there's lots of times where I've got someone's portfolio or their application again, and I just haven't got a way to contact them. So make sure that you've got your email address, any hyperlinks to your website or your social media platforms, your name, and a way for us to contact you. Here are some examples of portfolios. Again, your portfolio could take the shape of anything. It could be an Instagram page, it could be a PDF document, it could be a website. And in this example, we've got a PDF document. So you might want to consider your format, a beginning, a middle, an end, take the viewer on a little bit of a journey if you can. You want to make sure that you're clearly labeling and categorizing your work, making it easy to navigate and showcasing your skills quickly. So this would be really relevant if you've got any technical skills that you're looking to show off or anything that's really beneficial for us to see visually. And then also making sure that pages are not overcrowded, ensuring that the work is the main event. Top tip, avoid sending lots of images via Dropbox if you can, as it can create quite a disorganized viewing experience for the recruiter. there have been quite a few times where I've received a link to a Dropbox or a file that's just hundreds of images. And yeah, it's just not the best way to present your work. They could get lost. They can be really kind of time consuming to flick between. So select your work carefully and keep it as organized for us as you can. And then an example of a website portfolio. So you might want to have a straightforward URL and website title. It instantly highlights who you are and what you do and what your aspirations are. It's really easy and clear to navigate. You've got some tabs at the top there, so I can see your specific skills or your specific kind of areas of work. And there's also project-led web pages, meaning the quality of the work does the talking. And then again, a top tip here, it is a good idea to tailor your portfolio to the role that you're applying for. So if you're a kind of creative person and you've got lots of different interests and lots of different roles, you might be really interested in hair one day and then makeup another day and then camera work another day. If you've got a different portfolio for each of those, when you send off your application, make sure that you're sending the relevant one that shows off your relevant skills for that role as well. Jackie, what kind of roles would require a portfolio in this industry?
You would need a portfolio if you were looking for work in the art department, perhaps costume. They're probably the main ones. Really, I mean, if you're looking for things like, I suppose, camera work, then if you're making your own films, if you have a YouTube channel and things like that, that's great. Just to kind of show that you're out there doing it, you're having a go, you're developing, you're teaching yourself, you're learning the skills, you're being proactive. That kind of thing all goes down really, really well.
Super. And we have listed some useful website building platforms for you. Things like WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, Cargo, and Canva. All of these include free and paid templates. Again, it could be as simple as just an Instagram page, whatever works for you, whatever's appropriate for your roles and your interests. Okay, so now we are on to the section of interview top tips. So you've put your CV together, you've got your cover letter ready, you've got your application portfolio ready to go. You've made it to the interview stage, and what kind of things can you expect at the interview? What kind of things can you prepare for, and how can you best prepare yourself? We've got two questions on the screen, so I will pose both of them to Jackie, and then she will give you her lovely and wonderful insight into her experience with interviewing and kind of answering these questions on what the interviewer actually wants to know. So the first question, what does the interviewer want to know? What do they want to hear from you at your interview? Speaking from an interviewer's perspective, what is it that you would want to know?
We are looking for, again, people who are sort of enthusiastic and passionate about getting in. We want to know about your skills, and it doesn't matter if you have no experience, it really doesn't. We are interested in sort of your aptitude for learning, the kind of skills you bring from perhaps part-time roles, or it can be, school or university projects as well. You can show a lot through that if you've managed projects, delivered projects, even parties and events. Quite a lot of those skills are transferable into production. You need to be good organizers, you need to be good time managers, communicators, all that sort of thing. And you can communicate quite a lot of those things, those skills at your interview through other things that you've done, not necessarily absolutely industry relevant experience. It's not the people with all the industry relevant experience perhaps that we necessarily take through. It's the other things that we see. It's a good idea to prepare anecdotes beforehand. Have a look at the skills that we're looking for. Again, check the screen skills job profiles. And what anecdotes do you have? What projects do you have that help evidence those skills? Sometimes you'll get questions in advance. We do tend to send out a couple of questions in advance, not all of them, but some of them, so you can prepare something in advance, which is good to do that thinking. But really, it's about people who we think will be up for the challenge of this, actually, up for the excitement, the challenge, the long working hours. I think anyone who's done any research into production knows that it is long, good 60-hour weeks generally, at quite a pace, an unpredictable, variable sort of pace. So it's looking for people who really want to do that, and it's really funny because watching film is not the same as working in film. It's very different. It's certainly not glamorous or anything like that. It's just hard work. It is good fun, and it's very collaborative and all of those things. But yeah, it is still hard work, and we're looking for people who are up for that challenge.
Lovely, thank you. And then secondly, how can candidates effectively prepare for interviews when they might be applying for different roles within the industry?
So I've kind of given a few tips of, you know, if you're generally applying for interviews, but I think if you actually manage to get into an actual department and you're going to be interviewed by your potential supervisor, HOD, then your head of department, then it's a really good idea to actually research them, look at what they've been doing. And that's not necessarily possible on LinkedIn. A lot of people in this industry don't really use LinkedIn, but they're all on IMDb, so you can find out. You can have a look at what their past projects were, you know, have an opinion on their past projects, see if they won any awards, you know, so you can congratulate perhaps them on something if it's been quite recent. It's doing that little bit of prep beforehand about who's interviewing you as much as it is about preparing yourself and what you can tell them. Is quite good. It needs to be, you know, for it to be a really good conversation, and really people are looking to see who will fit in their team. So it's good to have done a bit of research on them too.
Awesome, thank you. So those are some two quick interview tips for you. We are now going to get to the part of the session where we're looking at the Q&A. I can see absolutely tons of questions, which is amazing. So we're spoiled for choice. Jackie, if you see any that catch your eye, then feel free to let me know and I can go through now and have a look at some that we might want to answer as well. If you do like anyone else's question as well, please feel free to give it a thumbs up so we know that it's popular. And we will have a look at the Q&A and see what kind of questions we've got. Let's have a look. I will answer this one live from Allegra. Should I use a basic template from Word for a CV, or can I use Canva to make it more creative looking? I know there are companies that use AI checkers, so is simple the best to avoid being axed?
Interesting question. I think you're going to have a view as well, I'm sure, Megan. I think, you know, I think you're right in a way. Simple is probably best, but I know what you're trying to do. You have something that stands out, something that creates a bit of individuality, and it's nice to see that design element, particularly in a creative industry. We do want to see that, but be careful of over engineering. Perhaps, you know, people who read CVs don't generally scan them. They don't spend time savoring them and you know, thinking about them in great detail. It really is a quick sort of scan. So you want to make sure more than anything that the information you want them to see is what they see. So don't kind of submerge it in too much detail and swirl and creativity, perhaps.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's always, are you sacrificing the content of your CV for the appearance of what it looks like? Yeah, and for creative access roles specifically, we don't actually use any AI. It's just us and our human eyes. So it is fine if you did want to be creative, but again, as Jackie says, simple is probably totally fine. Amazing. I will have a look back at the
You
Q&A.
don't use AI trackers either.
Awesome.
But you can usually you can still pick it up there, can't you?
Yeah, yeah.
You can see it. So be wary.
Yeah. We have a couple of popular questions. Oh, sorry, my chat just moved. What kind of hard and soft skills stand out on a CV for a trainee? What kind of skills might you be looking for if someone is entry level? And does it vary depending on the different departments?
I think it does vary a little bit. So there's some core skills that go across all departments, but sometimes obviously you have to kind of think about whether you want to be you're an organizer, you're a creative person, or you're a technical person. And generally you can kind of decide, you find jobs within each one of those sort of sections. So I guess that sort of leads where your leaning should be. But as I said, I think avoid writing lists of skills that you think you have, but try and evidence them with the experience or the examples that you're using in your CV. So, you know, as I say, if you've had part-time jobs, we will be able to see that you'll need to be on time for jobs. You need to be able to communicate with people and deliver and work with people. So that can tell you quite a lot just by telling us what kind of part-time jobs you've had. If you've like perhaps produced some work that's got a really good grade, or you've even got some awards for something, again, that shows that even they're going the extra mile. You don't just deliver to to the what's required. You go over and above, and that's also really something we look for. So yes, I would avoid writing a list of skills, but think of ways in which you can evidence and illustrate the skills that you have.
Awesome. I've got a question from Jasmine. Is there something that people do that often stops them from getting to the interview stage? Is there any kind of like common themes or things that you're seeing where people just aren't making it to the interview stage? Or maybe even at the application questions, is there I don't know, people that are writing really short answers for application questions and things like that? Does that kind of
Yes, that definitely doesn't go down very well. There's a word count for a reason. We think you need all those words to fully explain your motivations and your reasons for applying. So definitely, yes, always use the full word count. What else? I guess, I mean, again, people talk a lot about why they love film, and that's great. But it's why you want to work in film is what we're interested in. What's motivating you to want to work in film? What appeals to you about being on a set or being in the office or being out on location, whatever it is, what's appealing to you about that? What else is bad or not well viewed? Again, we've said AI, which is a big one. Yeah, I don't know, Megan, what else do you puts you off?
I do think the word count thing, again, when you've got application questions, sometimes people just don't know how much to write. If you've got a word count, it's probably an advisory word count. So again, fill those words, use those words. It's an important part of the process. It's not just kind of a question that's there so you can just click, 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 and then be through to applying. Those application questions are really important, and people are actually kind of really viewing and reading what you write there. So yeah, detail there is really important as well. I've got a question. Oh, sorry, Jackie.
I was going to say, just really think about the question as well, and actually set some time aside to properly prepare for it. You can see the people who've just applied for it on their phone. You can see, because it's it isn't properly thought through, and if the effort you put into your application will be evident. You'll be able to see it. So it's worth putting the time and effort in if you really, really want it.
Awesome. I've got a question specifically about the CrewHQ program itself. After finishing the CrewHQ December program, do all participants immediately jump into full-time or part-time work? Are there kind of opportunities after the training program?
Good question, because I haven't said that yet. All we can guarantee at this stage, because production moves a lot. Production moves, it's very kind of changeable. It depends on all sorts of things, and schedules can move and shift all the time. So we can't absolutely guarantee that everyone will get work. What we can guarantee is that we will get everyone interviews for placements at some point within, I think, 6 months. But having said that, on the current scheme, almost all have had work within 4 months. So we're trying to time our trainee programs when we think there will be work. So we are aiming and hoping that will happen, but that we just cannot guarantee it. And really what we're trying to do so what happens is there's a 2-week training period where up front, where we really help to prepare our trainees for working on production in their chosen department. And that's all about, teaching set etiquette, core terminology. There's also CV workshops to make sure the CVs are written as productions like them. We do interview prep and skills training. We have training for particular departments as well, all about making sure that everyone's on a front foot for when they do actually get the opportunity to have an interview and hopefully get some work. And then really, we will support the trainees for a year after when the training's finished, and get them as much work as we can, but all the time encouraging our trainees to own their own journey, make their own connections, and develop their own careers, because at the end of the year, that's what they need to be able to do.
Brilliant, thank you. I've got time for a couple more. So we've got one that is quite popular that says, if you have applied before and been rejected, how do you know what you need to improve this time to make sure that you submit a better application? I guess there's a lot of variables involved in this.
Yes. Well, everyone who has been rejected, if anyone's on this call has been rejected, then you will have received an email with some sort of common, perhaps, things that we found in the application process. So there is some sort of generic feedback. We aren't able to give individual feedback because we get so many applications, but there is some generic feedback there. And hopefully, this webinar has been helpful as well in perhaps you reconsidering, rethinking how you might put your application together. The questions are also different this time, if that helps.
Another question about the program itself. How many trainees are you looking to recruit for the CrewHQ training program?
20.
Awesome. I'll just have a quick scroll of the chat to see if there are any that are popular and popping up. Again, if you want to give a thumbs up to anyone's question that you like, then feel free to.
Oh, someone's saying, is it worth putting theatre experiences in your CV? I'd say definitely. Definitely. There's so much transferable knowledge, experience and skills from theatre into film and TV. Really transferable.
Amazing. Maybe if we just do one or two more questions, let me have a quick look at the Q&A again.
I'm also asking about producing and assistant producing and any sort of above the line roles. We don't cover that, so we don't look after producing, directing, screenwriting, acting. Any of those roles are not what we look after. But there are other schemes, certainly at Warner Brothers Discovery, that do look after that. There's a WBD access scheme. So although we don't, there are other options, and obviously Creative Access and loads of other organisations offer different above the line support, but it's not something we do.
Awesome. Maybe one final question about the application as well. So in the initial stage of the application for the training program at CrewHQ, is there a section where you can select what roles you might be interested in, or how many roles could you select that you're interested in? Is there an option to kind of say, I'm really interested in hair, or I'm really interested in X, Y, and Z?
Yes, there is. You would choose from organisational, creative or technical departments, and then within that you would choose one department. Obviously it doesn't have to be the department that there's a department you would like, your preference is, but we don't hold that to you forever. If at some point along the line that changes, that's fine. But for now, what is your preference? What are you applying for? And we would advise that you obviously tailor your application to that department.
Lovely. I think that is kind of most of the general questions that I could pick up on. If there is anything else that you've caught that you really want to answer, then please let me know.
Production management is below the line. Just seen that one. That's fine. Sorry, it was just a quick one.
Otherwise, yeah, it was really lovely to get your insight into all of these different questions and CVs, cover letters, all of it really, and interview tips too. I will pop the final screen on slide on the screen just to say thank you all so much for coming, and here are probably the most useful links of today's session. So you've got the top QR code that you can scan that will take you to the opportunity at CrewHQ itself, so you can have a look there, see what the opportunity involves, find out more about them and their website via that QR code. Beneath that, we've then got our link to Creative Access and our opportunities board. Again, we've got internships, traineeships, jobs, loads of different things available on our opportunities board. Definitely have a look and see what's of interest across, both of those sites. And then I've also got a nice little QR code at the bottom where you can submit some feedback on today's session. I'd love to know what you learned or what you'd be curious to learn more about in future. Any feedback would be very, very welcome. And hopefully this has been a really useful session and a chance to hear from someone, Jackie, that has tons of experience with this and really, really useful knowledge. And hopefully this will be able to support you in putting together applications going forwards for roles in film and TV. Thank you all so much for coming. It was really lovely to have all of you. Definitely have a look at our links, and I will leave this slide on the screen before the end of the webinar so you can take a final look. Thank you so much to Jackie for sharing all of those tips and all of that knowledge. It was really, really helpful. Thank you.
No, thank you as well. It was good to see see so many people here. It's great. I look forward to seeing applications, hopefully.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your evening. And again, the session will be sent out as well. So if you need the slides, then you're welcome to them. Thank you for coming. Have a lovely rest of your day. And yeah, we hope to see applications from you very soon.